Hi Jane.
Hi.
Thanks for coming in. Nice to meet you too. First of all, so sorry to hear about your loss.
Hasn't been long.
How are you going?
No, so far so good.
The family looking after you?
Yeah, my son is at least.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. I guess we'll come to talk about that one in a moment.
Yeah.
All right. Now, if you do need a moment, just let me know. And if you need a drink of water or whatever, we can arrange that. But if you do need a moment just to take a breather, just say so.
Will
and
do.
also, if I say anything you don't understand or I brush over something where you've got a question, please feel free to just stop me.
Okay.
And we'll deal with it as we go.
Sounds good.
Okay. Now, I guess the first place we should start is the roles, my role, and also the role of the solicitor.
Okay.
Because I think today we really need to have a look at setting you up for a will, power of attorney and advance care directive. And because your situation's changed, we really need to have a look at how things are structured.
Yeah.
Okay, so my role will be basically just have a chat and we'll work out what you would like to happen, and I'll point out anything that you need to be aware of.
Okay.
And from there, I'll then instruct the lawyer, okay, and the lawyer will then draw up all the documentation.
Okay.
I can't do that.
No.
Okay, so that's their specialty. So from there, ultimately ongoing, I'll have a look at your financial situation as well, but for today we'll just be dealing with what we need to do in regard to your will and potentially your estate. So hopefully we don't go there. All right.
I'm not yet.
Now, here we go. My financial services guide, first off.
Awesome.
So there you go. So that just tells you about the things that I'm allowed to talk about by licence.
Okay.
And I'll leave that with you, and we'll discuss that at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Ultimately, that's yours to keep. That just basically is what I do and how I do it.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Now, roles and responsibilities we've been through. Solicitor. Now, they have the legal side of things. I can do the strategy side of things to a point, and then the lawyer will also deal with you, so there'll be a subsequent appointment. They'll provide the detailed advice, and they'll actually make sure that everything is legally in place, executed properly, and your wishes will be carried out by the letter of that will. Okay. They'll also do, as I said, power of attorney, advance care directives. They'll also assess the possibility of risk, and also challenge to your estate.
Yeah.
Now, from our phone call, there may be an issue there.
Yeah.
And also they'll assess your capacity to make a will. Okay. That you actually have mental capacity. All right.
So far so good.
So far so good. Okay. As I said, they'll ensure proper execution, and they'll also outline what situations would require you to revisit your will.
Yeah.
Okay, and that could be anything from a marriage, divorce, children, all sorts of things. So I'll let them go there as well. I'll touch on some of the issues. Okay. Now, I guess if we could have a little bit about your history. I'll just take some notes as we go on the basically this fact finder. Okay, and that'll form part of my brief to the lawyer.
Okay.
From there. Okay,
That makes sense.
It'll be sort of personal. So,
Fair enough.
but we need to go there just so that we can actually get your wishes in place. Okay. So, how long has it been since John died?
It's been 3 months now.
3 months. Okay.
3 months, yeah.
And now, was there one person in your family that dealt with finances more than the other?
My son.
Okay. Well, I mean, but currently, or before John died.
Which was John.
Was John. Okay,
Yeah, he
so
did everything.
Did you have any sort of part in it, or was it mainly
He predominantly dealt with it. I touched on it very little.
Did a lot. Okay. So you're a little bit lost at the moment?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been a lot of changes.
Now, also, you said that you had a will.
Yep.
Now, you didn't see a solicitor for that?
No, we just used a will kit. Just the
Okay.
basic.
Right. Will kits are they can be fraught with danger because there's set wordings and everyone's situation is different.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it's best if we actually do go down the path of seeing a solicitor, because what you think might happen might not, and it could come down to wording and the legal interpretation of whatever is in that, your will kit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a bit worried about my daughter as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now I know that you've got some friction there.
Yeah, a little bit.
So, and we'll come back to that in a tick if we can.
Yeah.
I just want to sort of find out a little bit about the structure of your existing will. So, how was your existing will? Who was to receive the benefits there?
At the moment, it's set up as equally divided between my late husband and my son, Michael.
Michael, okay. And you've got a son and a daughter?
Yes.
Okay.
Felicity's my daughter.
Felicity, okay. Now, I've got a list here of your estate. So we're talking roughly around about 1.5, 1.6 million?
Yeah.
Okay. So we need to get everything in place for that, that's for sure. Right, now... as you said, right, we've got children, okay, Michael, Felicity, and they're financially independent?
Yes, although Felicity has got a few issues at the moment. But
financially or personally? Or
I would say financially.
Financially, okay. And how old are the kids?
Michael's age 30 at the moment.
Yep.
And Felicity is 26.
Okay, all right. Okay, and I'll just take down, just for a family tree, so we can work out what goes where.
Yep.
Okay, Michael, does he have any children? Or is he married, first off?
Yes, he
is.
Yes,
better start
he's married.
There. Okay, and...
he's got 2 children currently.
Yeah.
Simon, aged 11, and Thomas, aged 10.
Good kids?
Yeah, I've got no issues with them. They're all good.
Good. And sounds like you get along pretty well with Michael.
Yeah, he's been helping me out a fair bit.
Okay. Now, Felicity. Now, you said there were some issues there.
We've become estranged a fair bit. I haven't spoken to her in a while.
Well, okay. So you're really great on each other, or has she done something wrong, or it's just one of those things?
I think it's just one of those things.
Okay. And so, do you want? She doesn't form part of your will?
Not currently, she doesn't.
Okay, all right. And does she have any children?
Yes, she's got a daughter.
Okay, and her relationship status?
I believe she's a single parent. She's single at the moment. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So I guess if you haven't seen her,
no.
Who knows?
Last I heard, she was single.
Okay, and daughter was Sarah.
The granddaughter was Sarah.
Okay, and how old is she?
She's 10.
She a nice kid?
I've barely spent any
See
time
much
with
of
her,
her.
so
That's a shame.
Unfortunately.
All right. Now I'll just draw up a part of this for the lawyer. I'll draw up a family tree. That's all good. Now, do you have an enduring or a power of attorney?
Not currently.
Not
no.
currently. Okay. So do you know what they are? If not, I'll go through them. Basically, I'll just summarise them for you if you like.
Not really.
Okay.
No.
And also an advanced care directive. Do you have one of those?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Let's make that. Now, how would you describe your relationship with Felicity? Would you say, was it sort of just uncomfortable or?
Pretty turbulent.
Turbulent. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Now, if we look back, that's going to be an issue. If she's not in your will, there's potential.
Not currently, no.
Okay, there's potential there that she may challenge the will if she doesn't receive anything because she might become. Think she's got an entitlement. We'll come back to that in a moment.
Okay.
Now, seeing as John has passed away,
yes,
that would mean that Michael would be the sole beneficiary. Okay, because if it was split 50-50 between the two of them. Now, as I said, if that was the case, then Felicity may actually challenge due to insufficient provision. Okay, and that just means that because she's your child, she would feel that she has a right. And if that was the case and it all went to one child and not the other, then she may have basically a chance of actually getting a positive outcome on that one for her.
Okay.
All right, so you don't want to go there, I guess you.
Possibly.
Okay. Would you consider actually providing something in the will for her?
Yeah, I guess, especially if it benefits my granddaughter as well.
Okay, so that's a consideration. All right, now, also if you did give Felicity something, and you'd have to feel comfortable with that as well, that it may reduce the possibility of a challenge.
that
Okay,
makes sense. Yeah.
Now, what would you feel comfortable actually giving to Felicity? Is there anything that would benefit her more so than Michael?
I do know Michael has no real use for any of my jewellery or anything like that. And he's on the house, and his house is already set up.
Okay.
So a lot of the household stuff.
So jewellery.
Probably not.
Okay, and also, so personal effects and house contents.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that would be. I think she's got a greater need for them.
Okay. Right. And also, you said
we did that.
Now, if she's single with a child, is she well off or?
No, she's struggling.
She's struggled.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, last I heard, at least.
Okay. All right. That's all good to know. Now, if we could just leave it there for a moment, and we'll just need to identify your assets.
Okay.
Okay. So we've got the list. So thank you for providing that.
Yep.
We've got an investment property.
Yes.
Which is owned with your sister Maria.
Yes.
Which is worth about 380,000, and you own half tenants in common, which means that would mean. So you can remember if that was the actual title. You've got that down here. That would mean that your half can be dealt with by the will.
Okay.
Okay. So we can actually. Otherwise, if it was just joint tenants, then it would automatically revert to Maria, and your side of the family would effectively lose that asset.
Okay. Well.
So
forethought then, by the sounds of it.
Yes. Now, in your name, other than super and insurance, we have house and contents around 550,000, and a car worth about 20. Does that sound right? And then we've got investment assets. You've got a fixed term deposit of about 100,000, shares around 160, and managed funds of 70. Okay. And you'd like to retain all of those? You're comfortable with how that all works?
They seem to be working okay so far.
Okay, good. And super, you've got an AMP super fund, current balance around about 300, you think. And now, have you nominated anyone to receive that? If in the event of your death?
No, not currently.
Okay, so that'll be a nominate or a death benefit nomination.
Okay.
And I'll come back into that. We can put a binding death nomination on it.
Okay.
And that will make sure that the trustees pay that amount to basically, there are a limited number of people, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
Life insurance, $100,000, and it's now the owner, the life insured is you, and the owner, from what you've got here, is your estate, so your legal personal representative. Fabulous.
Yeah.
So that'll just, if you were to die, that would then just be paid out into your estate.
Okay.
And that would then be dealt with
as
by your will.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Okay, and so we have net asset summary. We're talking around 1.5 mil. That all looks good. Now, do you have any concerns? It's good to. We'll get back. Now we've dealt with that. I'll just ask you about your concerns, and then we'll work out how you want things to go, and we'll make sure that all your wishes should be able to be enacted. So, do you have any concerns or requirements?
Yeah.
I mean, for the future, it doesn't have to be in the next month or two.
Not that it would potentially happen, but if I was to ever find another partner, I guess I want to make sure that everything's all still going to where it needs to go.
Okay, so would you want your partner to benefit at all? The potential future partner? Would you prefer it to go?
No, not really. No, I think I prefer it to go to the children.
Okay, good. Right. Okay, now, anything else? You'd like, obviously, Michael to stay as a beneficiary?
Yes, definitely.
And we've talked about Felicity.
Yeah.
Now, would you, I guess if they had some relationship issues, would you be worried about part of your estate being lost?
Yes, I believe. Yeah, I think I would be worried
So
bit
you'd
about
like
that
that
as well.
Protected?
I think so, yeah. I think that would be the best option.
Okay, that's fine. And that's fine. Okay, so we'll look at that one. That's good. Now, your super.
Yes.
That's an easy one to fix.
Okay,
so what we can do is we can put that binding nomination, as I've said.
Okay, yep.
And the valid will then direct everything else.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if you're to remarry, we can actually focus your will on delivering those assets to Michael and whatever you decide for Felicity.
Okay.
Okay. and we'll also work it out that we can actually protect them. There's a thing we can use, which I'll talk about in a moment, to protect them against loss to family disputes, if you like, with their spouses.
Oh, that'd be good.
All right, so far?
Sounds good so far,
Okay.
yeah.
So what we could use is, now there's a thing called a testamentary trust, okay, and that can be used in several ways. And what that would ensure is that when you did actually pass on, that we can identify assets that would be put into a testamentary trust, and that means that there will be a set of rules, okay, and there'll be a trustee appointed, and that's someone to look after it.
Okay.
Now, is there someone that would probably be appropriate for that would do well?
I'd say probably Michael.
Michael,
son,
okay, great, because you could trust him to make good decisions financially and also morally.
So far he has. So.
And he understands what you're about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're pretty close.
Good. All right. Now, testamentary trusts, as I said, they come into place and you can identify the assets you want to actually put in them.
Yep.
All right, so what we can do, now specifically for that, I guess now's the time we talk. You're saying that Felicity has financial issues?
Yeah.
Okay, and you don't necessarily want to leave 50-50?
No.
Okay.
I think that'd be unfair on Michael.
Right. So, okay, that's fine. Now, would you consider, I'm thinking about the provision issue, would you consider leaving maybe, if you wanted to help, what do you think would help Felicity most?
I think she's not, from what I remember last time I spoke to her, she wasn't fantastic with money herself, so...
Okay.
Potentially,
so she's
long term.
Not responsible?
Not as much.
No. Okay. So I'm just thinking, would it be useful for her would you like to set something aside for her that would provide her with income?
Okay.
Yet she couldn't do anything stupid with the capital.
I think that would be smart.
Smart. Okay. And if you wanted to limit it, would you consider maybe giving her that capital, rather the income off of the capital? And then what would you like to have? Is it important to you that capital would go anywhere in particular?
I think eventually to make sure my grandchildren are.
Okay, so her daughter,
after,
who was Sarah.
Sarah, yeah.
You'd like her maybe to receive that?
I think that would be a good idea.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
right.
I'd like to have a better relationship with that, but...
Okay, and for Michael, are there any things that, if you could do anything for him, right, if you pop some money away, are there any issues that you'd like to, like if you could remove, say, maybe if you could help him with some tax or something like that and provide income and maybe some access to capital, would that be something?
I think that'd be a good idea.
Okay.
And also towards the grandchildren as well.
Grandchildren at the end. Okay. Good. So what we could do is have 2 testamentary trusts possibly. Okay. Now you've identified some for Michael, some for Felicity, but you want to protect the capital from Felicity, but give her some income.
I think that would be smart. Yeah.
And you're happy?
I think that sounds a good idea. Yeah.
All right. What sort of percentages would you like? Obviously not 50-50 because you don't. But what do you think would be a fair thing to provide a reasonable amount of income for Felicity?
I reckon maybe split it 70-30 potentially.
So Michael for
70.
70 and
definitely.
Felicity for 30.
And Felicity 30. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So what we could do is there are 2 types of testamentary trusts.
Okay.
So what we could do is we could have a testamentary discretionary trust for Michael.
Okay.
Now that would mean, now as you said, he's very good with money and making good decisions.
Yeah.
We could make him the trustee.
Okay.
And he'd look after it.
Yep.
And we could also make him the trustee for Felicity's trust.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, and he could look after that.
Okay. Yeah.
And he would decide.
He'd be good at that. Yeah.
He would. Oh, great. Now, so effectively, he'd be a gatekeeper.
Yep.
For Felicity.
Yes.
Happy with that?
I think that would work well.
Okay. So what we can do is we can set the 2 up.
Yep.
Michael would potentially have access to capital if he needed to fund mortgages, capital amounts of expenditure or whatever as he saw fit.
Yep.
And they would also get income out of the investments.
Okay.
Now, with a discretionary trust, the income can be split to the beneficiaries, and that can be Michael's kids.
Okay.
And or his wife.
Yep.
As he sees fit as trustee.
Okay. Yep.
Now, that would mean that normally if the children, if they're under 18 and they receive income from a trust, they receive income anyway from the parents, diverted to them from the parents, they'd be taxed at penalty rates.
It's not good.
No. But with the discretionary testamentary trust, what we can do is actually divert income to the kids to reduce Michael's tax burden.
Okay.
And the children are taxed at adult rates, not penalty rates, and they also get offsets and rebates.
Oh, okay.
So that'll help them enormously. Yeah. Okay, so that would be the case there. And what would happen with the other trust? Now tell me, am I on the right track so far?
So far so good, yeah.
What we could do is have a protective trust for Felicity.
Okay.
Capital would be locked up in there.
Yep.
And income that was derived from those assets could then be provided to Felicity and Sarah.
Yep.
Ongoing to help her with her.
Okay.
How long would you like that to actually last? The actual provision for Felicity?
Well,
for her lifetime?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, then what would you like to happen to that capital? Would you like?
Well, I don't think the grandchildren should be able to gain control over it until they're about 25. I think that's
good
about
idea.
when they become responsible. I think.
Yes. All right. And if Felicity was to die, what would you want to happen to her, the capital that was sitting there in that trust?
I do think that should pass through to Sarah.
Okay. And so she wouldn't be penalised by your relationship with her mum. In other words, she's still family?
She is, yeah.
Yep, okay, great.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess so just in recapping.
Yep.
We've got, now if I've got this correct, 70% going to Michael.
Yes.
30% going to Sarah. To Felicity. Sorry. Yep. And then we have on your death, that can be put into a discretionary trust, testamentary trust for Michael.
Yep.
He'll be the trustee and have control.
Okay.
Now, would you be happy if he had the power to either keep it going or wind it up, depending on how he saw fit?
I think that would be a good idea. Yeah.
And the same thing for Sarah's protective trust?
Yeah, I think that would make sense.
Okay, so Michael will have control.
Make sure it's looked after.
Great. Okay, so we'll have those assets, but before those testamentary trusts occur, from what I've got here, we're going to pass some jewellery and also some house contents to personal effects to Felicity.
To Felicity, yeah, I think she'd get better benefit out of them.
Great, okay. And I guess in that way, Sarah would benefit from that as well.
Long term, yeah. Felicity pass away, then jewellery would definitely go down through to her. There's a few pieces in there.
Good. All right. Also, I was going to say I've made put in there as well. We'd have to be concerned about capital gains tax with your investments, because if one person was to receive, say, the term deposit, there'd be no capital gains tax.
Okay.
Whereas if someone received the managed funds or shares, then they would have a tax liability, so it might not necessarily be fair. So they'd be split 70 one way, 30 the other.
Okay.
Happy?
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay.
It's probably the safest option.
Now, investment property, next place.
Yes.
Okay, what do you think there? It's tenants in common. So would you want it included in the will, or just leave it to Michael to make a decision?
I'd consider selling my interest in it to my sister if she was interested.
To Maria, okay.
Otherwise, as part of the will, potentially to sell it if that's the best option.
It's the best option. Okay, so Michael, you're happy with Michael making that decision?
Yeah, he's pretty good with that.
Great. I've got most of this coming through now. It's all good. All right. So you think that Michael would be the executor is the person who actually deals with your estate through your will?
Yes.
So he'd be the appropriate person to act?
Yeah.
Is there someone else that you think, if Michael couldn't or didn't want to, that someone else that could look after your situation? She got
yeah, my brother, I think, would be.
What's his name?
Another good one. Stephen Jones.
Okay,
his name is.
cool. Okay.
So
Michael would be the main man. He'd be a substitute executor.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense.
And they could potentially help each other if need be. Okay, now you don't have a power of attorney.
No, not currently.
Okay, now that was the job, or the role, I should say, that someone takes on, and they can do anything for you practically, well, basically bar make another will or get married for you.
Okay.
So from there, now, if you're unable to act for yourself, you'd be happy for Michael. Okay, and he seems to be the main man.
Yeah,
here.
he is. Yeah.
Okay, and now, following on from your executor, who's the person who would deal with your will, would your brother Stephen, would he be an appropriate person?
Yes, I believe
to act
so.
as a backup for power of attorney.
Yes, I believe so.
Great. Okay. Okay. Next thing we have to deal with is